but this was rare. Sometimes parents would bring their children, only to fornicate with them at the festival. Sometimes dreaming humans, uninitiated and unaware of the truth, will accidentally stumble upon the Sabbat festivities and perhaps find themselves in danger. Baphomet truly enjoys hearing tales from the attendees regarding the wickedness they've committed in his name. He delights in hearing stories of mischief and hardship being caused among mankind. But in truth, they report to him all things that are relevant to Baphomet. He will often place a mark on a concealed part of the attendee's flesh after they have verbally committed to giving him their soul. The attendees of the Sabbat are often made to renounce Jesus, God, and accept Baphomet and Lilith as their new father and mother. Magical powders and poisons are commonly distributed to those present so that they can continue causing mischief among mankind. Sometimes Baphomet would assign those who attend spirits called familiars. A familiar is a spirit who has been consigned to serve an individual. The devil insisted that all the food served at the festival be insipid and disgusting in taste. The dancing done at the Sabbat, especially by the women, is reminiscent of the sexually suggestive dancing done at most clubs these days. The music at the Sabbat sounds a bit chaotic and without melody. It is frequently described as random tones and bells. Satanists often compare and equate Baphomet with the biblical Cain, who slew his brother Abel. They claim that Cain was not the child of Adam and Eve, but of Satan and a demon named Lilith. In the Lovecraftian mythos, the black man of the Sabbat is known as Nyarlathotep, the highly intelligent trickster god who teaches mysteries that lead to evil. He is also the consumer of souls and has 1,000 faces and forms. Nyarlathotep, called the Chaos that Creeps, is a messenger god who acts as an intermediary between the dark gods and their worshippers here on earth. The mission of the Illuminati is the construction of a global government whose power can never be challenged, and this ambition is called the New World Order. The means to achieve this dream lies in the use of a series of artificially created conflicts, ever increasing in scope, that is designed to guide humanity along a predetermined path. Humans are creatures bound by conflict. In our everyday lives, the names of neighbors and acquaintances populate our list of enemies. In times of war, individuals in the enemy nation comprise our enemies, while those very same neighbors and acquaintances are now our friends. And if aliens landed and threatened the very existence of the human race, any human from any nation are now your friends, with the extraterrestrials playing the role of the enemy. The human race needs conflict, not love, as a binding agent. Such is the hole in man's heart. The Illuminati has long used the hole in man's heart to guide and manipulate it. A series of self-induced and well-planned conflicts will bind just the right people at just the right time as to justify a global police state in the minds of the masses. The beginning of these conflicts involves the collapse of the Western economies, with America's economic plight as perhaps a trigger to global economic depression. The US dollar is overproduced and destroyed by devaluation. Many other currencies will follow suit. It has been arranged so that no nation is self-reliant regarding all of its needs, and the necessary trade this creates helps to make the need for a global arbitrator even more concrete. America and the West will continue the trend towards socialism, as money from the government will become increasingly necessary for its citizens and businesses. The US stock market will plummet, and this event, coupled with a terrorist attack, will bring America into a state of emergency. This coming terrorist attack will be actualized by elements within the US government, and will most likely be nuclear or radiological in nature. cities like New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. being in the most danger. Similar events may occur in other Western nations, leading to the implementation of martial law in those countries as well. The United States will be forced to abandon its dollar and use the economies of Canada and Mexico as a crutch, giving rise to the North American currency, the Amero, and giving rise to the North American Union itself. These three nations will be seen to merge in ways other than economically. Their political, the infrastructure, and even the militaries of the United States, Canada, and Mexico will come under a single governing body. This will, of course, render the American Bill of Rights null and void. By this point, America's middle class will be nearing extinction. Keeping the peace will require the U.S. military to intensify its role as a police force. The Western governments will criminalize dissent, perhaps claiming the move to martial law is temporary. Dissenters will even be branded psychotic. The media will be under strict control, not the indirect manipulation we find today, but control through government decree. Large numbers of innocent people will be labeled terrorists and rounded up in mass arrests. These people are unlikely to be heard from again. These already existent camps, often called FEMA camps, will abruptly spring to life with dissidents, victims of natural disaster, and those who are useless to the economy. There may also be many kidnappings during this time. People will be frightened to utter a word of discontent, as informants and wiretapping will create an atmosphere of fear. You will witness crowd control and riot control work itself into an art form. Microwave and sound weapons will disperse the discontented crowds. The American people must be relieved of their firearms before the New World Order can ultimately succeed here, and a great push to severely limit firearms and ammunition will help to choke the supply until they are finally in a position, or have an excuse, to make possession of firearms illegal outright. Internet 2, the new internet which is on the verge of worldwide implementation, will allow the ruling class to completely seal the common man from the truth by limiting him to only the controlled press. There will be no pretense or expectation of freedom and privacy on this new internet, because it will be known that this internet is tightly regulated. This will allow the governments of the West to shed their final threads of transparency. This new internet will also serve as the backbone for a global economic structure. New forms of identifications, such as retina scans and microchips, are soon to be required for travel and to enter corporate and government buildings. Purchases will also come to rely on such forms of identification as the move for totally electronic currency begins. Atheism and other beliefs lacking spirituality will continue to rise. The people of the future only concern themselves with the material. You will witness strange new practices in the Christian, Catholic, and Islamic churches. They will begin to resemble festivals and marketplaces more than places of worship. Those religious people who are unwilling to liberalize their principles will be pegged as dangerous fanatics and fundamentalists. As life for the commoner becomes increasingly unbearable, he seeks to use drugs to escape from it. The depression he attempts to banish is the result of a healthy person living in an unhealthy environment, not the reverse. And since taking a pill, smoking dope, or drinking alcohol is easier than changing the world, this is exactly what he does. The way of life lived by those in the future is completely foreign to the human spirit, and entertainment and drugs will maintain control over the frustrations that build in the human heart. The blood games, like those seen in Rome, will return and be used to channel the frustrations of the people who live under ever-escalating tyranny. My guess is that the reality shows of today are merely serving to bridge the gap between those who are watched and those who are hunted. Mass media